This episode of the podcast is brought to you by AgWorks at CCA.
To schedule a tour and to see further information, please log on to our website at www.ccaeducate.me.
And remember, we are CCA.
Hello and welcome to the We Are CCA podcast. My name is Alan Fernandez. I'm joined with my co-host Jake Ramsey.
Hey Alan, it's been a little while since we've done one of these.
It has been quite a while. It feels really great to be back. It feels great to be talking to the listeners again. And so the question is, where have we been?
It's been
why has it been so long? We haven't seen Alan and Jake in a while.
It's been a great and wonderful and busy start to the school year with the launch of something that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely,
in this podcast episode. So, for us, for you and myself, and for every one of our staff members, the focus at what was to have a great start to the school year. And so that's sort of why we've taken that break. Mm-hmm. And we wanted to really focus on our families and making sure that they got the support that they needed as we transitioned into a very new and exciting time here at CCA.
Yeah, absolutely. It was all hands on deck in the beginning to ensure that everyone had a phenomenal start. And I would definitely say I think we did. We had a pretty awesome start to the school year.
It's been amazing to take on something like this where you're launching a brand new system like Edio, mm-hmm. And to see the staff really rise up to the occasion, and also to see our families step up and take on the challenge of something that's new and different and sort of embrace that has been amazing. So
yeah, it's been really cool to see families' responses to it, and also to hear them even talk to us about how amazing it's been, and even improvements that they realized from years previous. It's been super awesome to see it.
Let's go ahead, and we've ignored our guests long enough here. So let's go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves and sort of your role here at CCA, and maybe just a little bit about yourselves.
Even if they're both returners to the podcast.
They are returning guests.
All right, I'll be glad to introduce myself. I'm Joyce Good. I'm Senior Director of Learning here at CCA.
I'm Natasha Shane. I'm the Director of our Family Services Department. And a little fun fact, I also happen to have 2 CCA students that have been with us for 12 years.
So it's interesting. Natasha was our first guest.
Yes.
First guest on the very first episode, and her daughter joined us as well. So that was fantastic. And Joyce was the last guest, part of the team of the last guest that we had on the podcast.
That is very true.
Wow,
I didn't realize that.
So we got the beginning and the end.
All right. Well.
Sort of, anyway. But the start and the actually the last person that we had interviewed. So, obviously, all families are aware of the change and the launch of Edio. It's not a secret that. We've had this change and it's been something that's been really exciting. And I know that a lot of people have put a lot of hard work into developing Edio into, what it is and what it will continue to be moving forward. But Joyce, can you talk a little bit about just sort of the purpose and the goals of the design of Edio and sort of some of the thinking that went into creating the program the way that it is?
Well, there are a lot of learning management systems out there on the market. And CCA took a look at probably 4 or 5 of them in depth and decided that none of them quite met our needs. So we decided to create our own LMS. And we want our LMS to develop into more of a relational management system that is starting, but we will see aspects of that grow over the next couple of years. We wanted something that we could deliver our content in a manner that was more interactive and individualized than what we could find on the market. That's why we went down the path of creating our own.
And Natasha, from a family perspective, because you still have students enrolled with us, from a learning coach and student perspective, do you feel like though you see those things in aspects of Edio that it's sort of serving that purpose?
Absolutely, and I think our students are where the proof lies. The feedback that we're getting from our students. My kids love Edio. They love the format. They love the guided instruction in live classroom opportunities that they have now, and the ability just to have things more individualized and personalized to them and their style of learning.
Yeah, I talked to families a lot over the last couple months, and that seems to be the common thread. That they are very impressed with the sort of ways and different ways that they're able to engage with Edio and the content, and how easy it is to sort of navigate, and how seamless some of the transitions are. Whereas in the past, that might not have been the case. So information is readily available. They can access what they need to access, and so it's been great to hear that feedback from families. So. Um,
From a student perspective, that's what I'm hearing as well. From a teacher perspective, the other aspect of a learning management system that we were looking for was to give our teachers the ability to personalize and to edit and change, and we didn't have those aspects the year before.
Yeah, I'll definitely say from the student perspective, as somebody who works with students daily at our Harrisburg Drop-In Center, excuse me, I definitely have realized that as well. Students were very enthusiastic about the design of Edio. I mean, from a student perspective, they saw that and thought, "Oh man, this looks a lot like a social media application in some regards." And so there's a lot of really well thought out design choices with the physical presentation of Edio. Well, I guess in this case, virtual, but you guys know what I mean. And so it's really exciting to see students responding very well to that, and being able to, as we talked about, access a much more personalized experience, and being able to see that from students saying, "Oh yeah, my teacher did personalize this lesson for me," and they look at their peer's computer and it's not the same because it's that individualized. And so the thought that went into the design, I think, was really awesome. And so either one of you could talk a bit into how you guys discussed that design in Edio with presenting it and thinking of how can we manifest this increased personalized experience with some of what we're doing here in Edio.
Wow, that was a big question. So those conversations would have happened 2 years ago, starting 2 years ago now. We talked about how do we want to deliver this. What I haven't heard mentioned that I also hear from students is how clean it is.
Yeah.
It's just a clean
Yes.
interface. And we tried to come up with a very simplistic, clean interface that was attractive and didn't confuse students on where they were going. I'm not sure I've answered your question, but
Oh, I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I've seen students respond that way. They're just like, "Oh man, I don't have to click 17 different times to get to this modification or something like that."
from that aspect, then everything's down the left-hand side, so navigation is very
Mhm.
simple, and the tools that we were giving them were tools that they could communicate, and just the whole focus on the opening of Edio was to get the course delivery in a great phase for students to learn. So as we'll talk about in upcoming here, we've made a lot of enhancements and changes to it, but the initial phase was to deliver instruction with some great tools like the hotspots. I think we talked about them last time.
Well, and if the listeners are interested in sort of hearing the genesis of Edio from conception to launch, we did record a couple episodes. We met with Ann Culture and interviewed representatives from there about sort of what the process that they used to develop the program, and then we also talked with you and Joanna Shelley about how the courses were created. So if the listeners do want to hear that in more detail, they can go back and check out those episodes. You talked about the updates. So Edio is a living, breathing, ever evolving program. And it was designed that way. And the important thing about the evolution is that it is driven by feedback from our teachers, feedback from our families, our students. that that was done on that was done on purpose, right? Yeah. So we're already collecting that information, and we have already seen upgrades and updates to Edio that have resulted from that feedback. So you want to talk about some of those updates and things that have changed just over in the last couple weeks?
Sure. And remember, Edio's only been alive for about 5 months now. So we were able to deliver curriculum, able to deliver courses. Students were starting to learn with the platform and with our courses, and we were very pleased with the start of Edio getting it up and running. As with any program, the size of what this program will be, there were things that we didn't have. There are still things that we don't have that we want to have. Uh, and then we started on what was essential. What did we need to keep improving because we needed some tools? And one of the very first things, and I'm sure all of our listeners who are family uh, relations for us, either students or parents, are well aware that our Zoom rooms were having trouble at the beginning because kids were getting kicked out. That was actually something we did not anticipate. That was a great problem to have. All of a sudden, we found out that more of our students wanted to come to live lessons than they had in the past. So, where we were oversized for the number of students who attended live lessons the year before, we were seriously undersized for the number who started to show up in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem. Like you
Great
said, it's a
problem to
great
have.
problem to have. That's not one that we mind solving.
No, we don't mind solving that because
No.
that means students are engaged
Yes.
and they're coming and they're interested in what's happening with our teachers teaching. Our teachers are loving it because they've got more students in attendance, and overall, that was a wonderful problem to have. So within a couple weeks, we were able to quadruple the size in some classes and double the sizes in others.
Excellent, excellent. And then there was a big change with webmail.
Yeah, so that would be one area that I would say the webmail that was delivered with Edio was not functional to the point that we use webmail and that our students use webmail. So we needed to make a change, and we did need to do that quickly, and we understand that was challenging for families as well as teachers and administrators, all of us. But we could move very quickly into Office 365. It was a quick solution. It is an industry leader in the solution, and it gave so many options for our students that we weren't going to have in the Edio mail program for a while. It also allowed me to redeploy some of our programmers away from constantly working on webmail features and move them into other areas that we wanted them to design while giving students and families a great product.
So just kind of reallocating resources to areas that were also a priority, with a sort of not a quick fix but a fix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gotcha. You want to talk about, see if we can hit on the next one here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk to us a bit about the projected grade and where it currently stands, and some of the updates we've seen to that, which have been very exciting for families to be seeing change and evolve, and to see where it currently stands with the update.
So one of the things about cyber school is you can work when you want to work. And so where there are more hard and fast due dates in a traditional brick and mortar, it's easier for them to give you one grade. You know where your grade is.
Yeah.
It's not counted as a grade until you hand it in, and you have to hand it in on the date that it's due. In cyber, you can work when you want to, and if you fall behind, we don't necessarily penalize you for that, but your projected grade shows that if you do no more work than what you've done now, this is where your grade is. Okay? So if there are 100 lessons and you've done 35 lessons, you're going to see your grade. Let's say little Jake got hundreds on all of his.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
You have
It's realistic.
So you show an A+ in your grade. However, you have only done 35 of the 100 lessons.
That's probably true too. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so if the year ends right there, you've only done a third of the work.
Yeah.
And so your projected grade shows this is what you will get if the year ends right now.
Yeah.
With all the work that is incomplete.
Gotcha.
Incomplete.
How did the students respond to that? Sort of seeing that, and was there some confusion about where that number came from, and is it easy to explain it to them, like what that is?
It is easy to explain. I think with anything else, when you're seeing something different, all of a sudden it can, be a little concerning that, oh my goodness, my grade is really this low. And in reality, that's not the case. We just want to make sure that we're giving our parents and students all of the information they need to have a full picture of where they are and where they need to be to succeed for the school year.
Yeah, I think our veteran families will remember sort of the experience of teachers putting in temporary zeros, and so their A would drop to a C, and in 5 minutes, and the students go, "I didn't touch a thing. What happened?" And it's so the projected grade is sort of eliminating that shock of that experience of having temporary zeros put in. I always when I talk to families, the way that I sort of explain it is that the current grade is an accurate reflection of the work that you have completed and have submitted to the teacher and that they have reviewed and graded for you. It is a reflection of the quality of work that you're doing. The projected grade is, yeah, you might be doing A+ work, little Jake, but you're not, if you don't make up or catch up with this overdue work that you've let slip and slide, this is how those zeros will negatively impact the quality of work that you've done. And that seems to, it's not, I don't know if it's the best way to explain it, but it seems to work.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely attest from a student perspective, in the drop-in centers where we have students who are academically on a good track, and we have some students who are not for X, Y, and Z reasons. And so it's great that this tool allows the student and staff and family, whatever caretakers are involved, to have such a customized, detailed look into, if you continue this current track, this is where you go. And for drop-in center staff, it has helped us to really think about, hey, here's this plan we can give you now that we've seen your projected grade if you do these things. And if you fall back on X, Y, and Z, here's the projected grade and how it can shift in that way as well. So the question of, Mr. Fernandez, what do I need to do to get a C, has been a lot more accessible to answer than in years previous with previous systems and designs.
One of the, or two of the other, well, I guess it is a feature, but there's two versions of it that is different, is the dashboards. And they rolled out sometime in September. They became active September, October, I think.
I think we were in
Yeah, October.
We were waiting to see what people really needed to see in the dashboards.
Yeah.
We could have probably moved that up even a little sooner. But what you need to see is different, and we were trying to get a clean understanding of that.
Yeah, so based on your role in the school as far as learning coach versus student, you want different information. The information is going to be different.
That's a prime example of the feedback we received that really helped to mold and develop both of those.
So Natasha, can you kind of give us an overview of the dashboards and sort of like you said, why certain information is included in each version, maybe starting with the caretaker, because you interact with that consistently on a daily basis.
Right. We wanted to, we're talking about caretaker and student dashboards.
Yeah.
So we wanted to give both of those groups dashboard information, so overviews of various information, starting with the caretaker dashboard. We want them to be able to see all of their students at a glance. How are their students doing? What does that actual and projected grade look like for their students, so they have that information right there. We also wanted them to be able to see the number of overdue lessons their students have. Everything, all the information that a caretaker would need to know to be able to effectively engage their students, with their students' teachers, to be able to help keep their kids on track. Absences, that's another thing that's on the caretaker dashboard. If a student does not log into Edio for a day and has an unexcused absence, that needs to be rectified within Edio. So they had a doctor's appointment and they just couldn't log in for some reason. That caretaker has the ability to, right from their dashboard, go in and submit that excuse. We want to make it a one-stop shop and very easy interaction.
Yeah, from a caretaker's perspective, looking at the dashboard, I've been able to sort of see it and see how families maybe use it, and it does seem to be that one-stop shop. It seems to be that place where when you log in, Edio defaults to the dashboard, and really you don't necessarily need to go anywhere else to find the information. You can navigate, but most of what you want to see and most of the information that you should be aware of with regards to your student is right there on the dashboard.
The overview, at least. And then
yes, kind of the broad picture.
Deeper into granular details of their individual grades. Caregivers still have access to see all of that, exactly how their students performed on any particular test assessment. They can be right there in near real time.
So while we didn't have the dashboard at the very beginning of school, all parents and caretakers could get the information they wanted.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying we wanted to find out what exactly do you want us to serve up for you right there.
Yeah.
And I think the results have been pretty positive.
Very positive.
That parents are now getting what they want to see right there.
Yeah, it in the old system, it used to be, I know a lot of parents would get confused with where to find information. And the task of kind of gathering information was a little bit laborious. It was, you would have to go here to find this, and then here to find this other piece, and then here. The dashboard seems to really give you a nice overview of where everything stands, and then if you see any red flags from there, then you can dive deeper into what's going on with your student, which takes maybe a half an hour in the previous system. Now it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes just to get a quick overview.
Well, we also had to be very conscious that we've got caretakers who have 4 or 5 students.
Yeah.
So real estate on that page was very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to make sure that what we were delivering was the most important tool and was succinct enough that they could see multiple students.
Right, because on top of delivering the information they need, we want to deliver it efficiently and accurately. And I think that, again, tying back to the design part, that was a really cool thing to see us evolve and live through and updating and delivering that to our caretakers. And speaking of delivering content and information, guided instruction and live classrooms.
Well, wait, hold on now. You're jumping ahead.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm jumping ahead.
I'm going to put the brakes on you.
Oh, that was a good transition.
It was, and I'm sorry.
One of our
You
biggest
did.
enhancements.
The student dashboard.
Oh, that's right.
We haven't. We sort of.
The other side.
Yeah, come on now. I mean, the most important part of this.
Okay, well, speaking of delivering information, the student dashboard.
I thought that's where you were going with it,
I
and then
did
I'm
too.
like, oh no, brakes.
Right, because that's one of the tools that we are actually most proud of, is the student dashboard. Without that, it was awkward for students at first. But I'll let Mom talk about that.
Yeah, like how have your students responded to interacting with the dashboard?
The student dashboard is really the flip side of the parent dashboard, but for students. So they are being served up with those overviews of everything they need. One really cool feature is the jump back in feature.
I love that feature.
I haven't talked to a student yet that hasn't been really excited about that. It just happens. It's part of life that you start a lesson and sometimes you have to go do something else. You might start and then go to a guided classroom, or start and then have lunch. It can be hard to remember exactly where you were within that lesson, but with that jump back in feature, They can click the button. It takes them right back into the lesson, exactly where they stopped. So they don't waste that time trying to figure out where they were or duplicate something or miss important content. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
The other parts of the student dashboard are being able to see their activity. So they get to see their streaks, how many days in a row they've logged in. And that's exciting for students too. It's just a way for them to measure their own engagement with the program.
The your progress part of that, I don't know exactly how students use it. I'm sure everybody uses it individually in their own way. I just like the fact that it's there and that it's more information to make informed academic decisions and set maybe some academic goals based on what you're seeing. Hey, I've attended 20 days in a row. I'm going to break that. I'm going to break my longest streak. Hey, my Wednesdays seem to be the most productive. I need to be a little bit more productive at the other ends of the week so that I'm not trying to balance as much, or however they see that. But I really like like I said, I don't know how they use it. I just know that I like the fact that it's there for them to use when in whatever way they choose.
That's a tool that actually the analytics behind that are at a very basic level, but where that tool is going has a lot of excitement behind it. We're a year and a half out, but we can use those analytics to help students know when they work best, but we can also help to drive curriculum and instruction. So, but that we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that analytics is there for a reason.
Great.
Just some other things on the student dashboard, their courses, their grade book, their calendar, of course. So students have direct access to their calendar, what they need to complete for each individual day. They can go to and look at each one of their courses just with the click of a button, which also takes them to directly contact their teachers or look into any information that might have been posted for the courses.
I like the fact that the way that the courses are set up with having specific lessons scheduled for specific days. The students are never confused about where they stand in the course or where they should work. Am I doing the overdue stuff, or do I need to do this lesson that it's showing that's due for today or whatever? The old system used to be a little confusing. They didn't always match up. And now it's nice because you know where the course is as of today. If you have some overdue work and you want to work in that continuous order, you know which lessons you need to do. And there's no confusion there about where you stand. And so that's a really nice change.
I believe that feature and design came directly from students roughly 2 years ago when they were doing conversations with families. So I think students actually asked for that.
Great. They should have.
Yeah, we want to know. So there must have been something in the other system that was too confusing for them.
Yeah, and I remember trying to help students figure it out, and as an employee, I couldn't figure it out, and that's confusing.
Yeah, I have to say, working with students in the drop-in center, from the previous system to now, it's almost night and day with the students now growing independence and ability to navigate that themselves, whereas in the past, because of that confusion and interesting choice and design for the previous system, it's just so much more efficient for them to have that ownership of, okay, I can figure out where I need to be, and that's been awesome to see.
All right, Alan, I think we're ready to now transition into
now?
the guided instruction in live classroom. Hey, it's we're rusty. We haven't done one of these in a while, so we're a little bit rusty. It's fine.
Well. But
it's fine.
Yes, guided instruction in live classroom. As someone who's seen students interacting with it, I am ecstatic about it. I'll reveal that for myself. But talk a bit about it's something different that we've done in previous years. Talk a bit kind of about some of the updates we've seen to guided instruction in live classroom and some of the feedback maybe we've heard from families, students, and even some staff members such as our teachers.
So we've not only reinvented our courses and created our own learning management system, we have also tinkered with and reinvented our delivery method. Excuse me. And out of that came the guided instruction and the live classroom for the middle school and high school. Elementary is now going into the guided instruction as well, I believe next semester, coming up here at the end of January. But I'm actually going to turn that question around. So you're excited that
Wait, hold on. It took
Oh yeah.
30. It took 30 minutes. It took 30 minutes. We were
I
we were
wasn't
wondering.
going to, but the way you led into that question was
We actually
perfect.
talked when, at one point is Joyce going to ask us a question?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to hear from someone who's been in the center. What are you seeing? So the premise of guided instruction and live classroom. Guided instruction is designed so that if a student wants to go synchronously through the course, they can. They can have teacher instruction every day in math. Jake and I were actually I'm giving you a little time to think because I'm coming back to you. All right, but Jake and I went to see a school before Christmas, and I asked them that question. How do you use guided instruction versus live classroom, and when do you use it? And they pretty clearly said, if they're struggling with a course, they go to guided instruction. They want that teacher instruction. They want that support. They want to hear the teacher deliver the content, not just have it delivered in Edio. However, if they're doing well with the course, or if they're comfortable with what's going on in the course, they don't go to guided instruction. They just work in Edio. And then they use the live instruction if the teacher is using live instruction for going more in depth, for taking on more difficult content. And my favorite, when a teacher uses live instruction, to dive deeper and have debates and conversations. So that's the premise of those two. What are you seeing? Why do you say that it's been a good change?
I say it's been a good change because student engagement in the center. I know, so we were in a conference from the beginning of the year because our current permanent space was still undergoing the final touches. And I remember myself and some of the other staff members of the center were a little concerned because it was so quiet in the room. You could hear a pin drop because all of the students were in guided instruction and live classroom and engaging. So with the guided instruction, you said students who, wanted to go synchronously. We have students now that every day they come in, they follow their guided instruction schedule like there is no tomorrow. They'll even sometimes leave activities and events that we do early because they go, I gotta make it to guided instruction. And that's just awesome to see that there's students who they thrive in that schedule, and they thrive in knowing that when I come here, I'm going to have a very engaging delivery of what I'm learning, and they want to participate in that. So we've seen that pretty clearly. We have certain students we know, they sit in that table, and at these times, they are in these guided instructions, and they don't change a thing of it. And for the students that are asynchronous, what we've seen a lot is students who have questions with us. They say, hey, I don't get this idea or this content. And we say, well, did you attend live classroom? Did you, and if they happen to not be able to miss it, did you go to the recording of the live classroom and see that? And it's still a transition for them because in years previous, there are certain students who I think of now who I'm thinking, yeah, you didn't really attend any of the live instruction in years previous for X, Y, and Z reasons. But in this case, we say, hey, if you go here, you're guaranteed to get an in-depth dive into that very question you're asking. And sure enough, sometimes we'll sit with them, watch them go into live classroom, watch them go into a recording, and we will see, within 3 minutes, they answered your question right there. And so to see students begin to recognize that, okay, like there are so many different options for me to get that instruction from my teacher, whether it be in a recording or live or in this guided context, and I can follow it synchronously. We've been able to address different needs for different students, whether it be, a student who's very far back behind. Hey, focus on live classrooms, focus on the recordings, especially if for, again, XYZ reasons, you're not able to be synchronous. Really tie into those, really dive deep into those and And it's not like years previous. And sure enough, we see them go in and we see that result in their grade and their understanding of the content.
I think, let me
Go ahead.
respond to him. I think you've mentioned a couple of really important parts. Number one, this year the live lesson is right on the calendar.
Yes.
So one of the tools that's really been a huge feature for our students is they know exactly when they have their live lessons. That helps. I mean, that would help me. One of the other things I heard you say was that it's not, we haven't lost our flexibility, that you have to be there at that time for that live lesson because everything's recorded and you can go back at your own pace. And you can go listen to it twice if you need to. And I think those things have all been very successful tools. And I think the learning has really increased. And we do have data that says that students who attend live lessons or watch the recordings tend to academically do better. So we really want to encourage that. I think this program and both the way we've changed instruction and the way that we are doing our live instruction with Zoom have allowed us to keep all the flexibility and still provide students with what they need when they need it. I think that's great.
Just from what I've seen and what I've heard from students is, I think when you provide choice about how you would like to engage in content, like the students at the center where we visited, they felt empowered with the option to choose. They had the choice to decide if they would like to try to learn independently on their own and try to tackle this. And they felt sort of, they felt the courage to do it because they had the safety net of that recording of the guided instruction if they happen to miss it. Also, you can tackle a challenging course. Like for me, it was always math. You could tackle something like that with the safety net of knowing that I'm going to be able to go through this not only with my teacher, but with my peers, and be able to do that in a guided instructional format. And it is what the teacher is teaching that day is exactly what I'm seeing on my screen in my Edio lesson, Edio content. And then the live classroom is where the students really get into the discussion and the deep dive and the maybe some remediation and enhancement and enrichment, and sort of tying a nice bow on everything that they've learned to that point in the course. And it has really, I think that when you give students choice, it empowers them to make decisions that best fit them. And that's the part that I really appreciate as somebody who cares about student development. So it's cool.
And I would add to that, it's exciting to see us give them a choice that's not dichotomous. So what I mean by that is I can imagine, for any new families that come in, for any new students that come in, I can see them perceive this as, oh, this is a lot of choices I have, and may even feel overwhelmed just based on who they are personally, or even the fact that we say live, they're working hard back here. Or even if we say live classroom and guided instruction, they may be thinking, oh, well, there's a difference between the two, so maybe I can only do one or only do the other. But that's not the case. You can hop back and forth and figure out which one works for you. Or maybe there's different seasons where this one works better than the other. I'm thinking of our athletes, for example. Once they're in their season and they are at practice a lot and they are in those games, the asynchronous route works well. And in the off season, they can go back into synchronous. And there's barely a skip of a beat in doing that, which I think is a testament to our course designers and the courses we've developed. And I think in their designing and planning with that in mind, and the delivery by our teachers. So to see them do that and to see that it's this choice that's evolving and flexible, and really responds to the individual. How can I use this? And oh man, I can respond different ways at different points. And so maybe this isn't as overwhelming as it seemed.
I think we've missed one other point too, and that is the fact that because they're recorded, parents can now go in and get the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
We have heard some concerns, just a couple, but we've heard them on there's no textbook. And for a lot of our courses, that is correct. but the textbook is completely online. It's not a physical ship to them. We do ship textbooks for some courses, but not all of them have them. Any course that doesn't get a physical textbook has it online, and so it's accessible for the student and the parent. But if the parent's concerned about anything, they can watch the live lesson too and see. So little Jake, we'll go with little Alan this time. Little Alan is saying, but no, Mom, we weren't told to do it that way.
Yeah.
Well, now we can go back in and we can see. And parents can be very helpful. They'll understand what the lesson was.
Where we have added choice, there has been a little bit of take too with the change in attendance policy. And that is it is a big and significant change for our families, and it is something that we were aware that there would be feedback on. Natasha, the sort of outline some of the main changes of the attendance policy, sort of where, and maybe reasons for that.
Well, we wanted to get to a point where we can understand and see the difference between a student who is attending, who is logging in and showing up for school, for lack of a better term, and those that are going through their courses, completing their work, attending guided sessions, or engaging in the curriculum. So that's one of the reasons for that change. Students who log in are marked present for that day. Engagement is a different story, but along that lines, caretakers no longer have to go in and enter that attendance. It's something that the system takes care of automatically. It doesn't remove the need for caretakers to be engaged in what their students are doing. As Joyce just mentioned, they still have every opportunity, and this year more opportunities to see what their students are doing, understand what's expected of their students in overall and in each individual course. And they have access to all the same resources that their students have access to.
Yeah, and it is something that sort of, especially veteran families, had to sort of adjust to, and there is some adjustment there, but there is flexibility still built into that, given that attendance and engagement are separate. They are two different things. But with all of the changes that have come with Edio, there are things that still remain the same. And one of the things that I think is unique about CCA is the level of involvement that we encourage from learning coaches and parents and whoever the trusted adult is that's working with the student. You kind of highlighted it a little bit, but the importance of learning coaches logging in and monitoring students' progress and performance, that still is sort of a key component of all of this. And why is that the case with CCA?
Well, it's a key component of student success. Students can only be successful when they have the support of their caretakers, trusted adults, teachers. We have to work together to holistically support that student. I just lost my train of thought there.
I think to be in the role of learning coach is one of advocate, especially with older students, with students in higher grade levels. The elementary learning coaches, they're in the day-to-day operation of how things go, but as the students get older and hopefully mature a little bit, they become a little bit more independent with the way that they engage. And students and learning coaches become more of that passive observer and then advocate. In order to be an effective advocate, you have to be informed. You've got to know what's going on. And the thing that's nice is, in order for you to get the information that you want, you don't have to rely on a CCA staff member to give you that information. The dashboard and the fact that we have the learning coaches account set up the way that we do is so that they have the freedom to access. There's no surprises. It's very, very transparent. And I know that that's done on purpose because we want parents and we want our learning coaches to be a part of that team that is putting the student at the center to make sure that all things are propelling them in the direction that we want them to go. And they are a huge and important piece, and that no matter what the learning management system is, Edio or anything else, that will never change. I don't think that is something that CCA will ever waver from, as far as the encouragement for learning coaches to be involved, to be informed, and to have the ease of access to information. I don't think that will ever change.
They can't, because it's part of best practice for
Yeah.
students learning.
Yeah. Well, in our mission and vision statement, if you look at that's still the same. Engaging all students in with a family-centered approach to deliver education, and that is something that has been constant from. We were talking about our sort of growth with the school, and when Natasha and I joined back in 2010, and kind of where we've gone, and that's the one thing that has always been constant, is it's been family, 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 family. You're not just serving students; we're serving families as a collection, and that is that hasn't wavered from 3,000 students to almost 10,000 students. It hasn't changed.
And Jake, I think a really important point to make there is not only do we encourage it, but we provide the support to help families get and stay engaged, from teachers being available to support families, to our family mentors, to all of the other various supports we have. They're too numerous to really mention during a short podcast, but we have those resources and the supports available to help our families if they're not sure how to get engaged or stay engaged. We can definitely help them out.
The other part about it is, one of the things too is that the individualized approach to caring about students as individuals and being able to meet the needs of students as individuals, that is something that has stayed consistent. The way that it's set up, and especially that's even been enhanced with the capabilities of Edio, in my opinion. But the way that students can sort of create their own individualized educational experience by exercising choice and flexibility to do that. That is something that has stayed constant. That is something that even with the implementation of Edio, that hasn't changed. It has been the same no matter what.
Yeah, I'll definitely reaffirm that, just again with my experience at the center, especially as the lone staff member on the table who has joined the most recently to CCA, but still having seen the previous system and where we're at with Edio now. Those two things have remained constant. One is the family serving perspective and the family collective approach to educating the child. That has never wavered, from the previous system to the current system. I am still calling parents, staff members are still calling parents, they're calling us. Even just this week, we had a parent call the center about one of our kids in there, advocating for him, in that, I've seen this, I'm recognizing this, I recognize the weaknesses because I see it in front of me. What can we do? Now that we have this information, what can we do with it? And I think that that's a beautiful thing. It is for a family to say, we have it. We can move forward and coming with a plan to really help this child thrive and succeed. And that has never changed. If there is any change, it's now more efficient, it's now more detailed, and it is more exciting to engage in and to see that. And the individualized approach as well. Equipping these students to thrive and succeed has never changed. And again, if there's any change, we're just doing it more efficiently.
So to sort of wrap this thing up, because this has been a lengthy podcast, for coming back.
Well, we have been gone for a while.
So we had to make up for time lost a little bit.
This is a great topic.
Just to wrap it up, what can we look forward to? What can families look forward to with the continued evolution of Edio? Maybe not specific things that are in the works, but just a continuation of certain processes or things like that.
I'm trying to think. There are probably 25 different tools and functions coming. But of those 25 tools and functions, there are 8 or 9 different layers of that tool.
Yeah.
So that's why that's kind of confusing to really lay out. However, I'm trying to think through what are some of the ones that are going to be most beneficial, and families will see. The greatest ones would be the sorting and filtering, being able to sort and filter in all kinds of areas.
Yeah.
That's really needed. Being able to have relationships form cleaner with others in the organization. There are a lot more teacher ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Being able to, there are still some grading features coming. There are grades functioning between systems. Like right now, our external courses, anyone that's taking a course with one of our vendors, those grades are not pulling back in routinely, so they're not updated every day. That'll be fixed.
Some general changes that will make everything more seamless to our families and students.
So with that though, like how we are continuing to take feedback from families and use that to sort of evolve Edio into something that is, engaging and just, it's never going to be perfect, but working it towards perfect, always striving to get to that extreme. How do families provide that feedback? What are some of the main avenues to which you're collecting that information?
Well, I would say first and foremost, letting teachers know where there's a problem. Okay. Because there are two things that'll factor in here. One could be the course. If they're seeing anything with the course, they need to get with their teacher. Especially if they're having trouble with the course or they're struggling with the course, we want to know that. It may be that they're struggling with the concept. It may be that the concept is presented in a manner that's not clear to them, and we can do something to clean up the delivery. So those things we want to know. That comes through teachers through their PLCs, their learning communities, get that back to the learning department, and they meet every 2 weeks. So any issues with the course, or if you see an error, which we don't expect to have too many of those, but if you see one, those kind of things we want to come up through the teacher and into the PLC. If it is something with the function of Edio, then we'd also like that to go through the teacher, and the teacher can share that with us. But there are several other options with help desk.
Is the best thing to do, best practice is to probably funnel it through the teachers? Is that what you would recommend?
Best practice is funneling through any teacher at this point in time. Ultimately, any staff member that a family communicates with, we hear every single one of those suggestions, and we take all of that feedback into account. So as long as that feedback gets to one of our staff members here, rest assured that it will be considered and taken into account for future.
All right. Well, we have gone, I think, long enough.
Well, I just want to add one thing.
Sure.
I'd actually like to answer our own question of what to look forward to. I think for the listeners, I think one thing you can look forward to is a school and staff and team that is never stagnant in the development of Edio. All these updates and everything we've seen has been staff responding to anything that's come up and answering the question of, okay, what can we do to improve this? What can we do to continue being efficient and deliver that further? There will never be a point in time where Edio stops and CCA stops. There'll never be a time where, even it feels like there won't be a time where it's almost as if Edio will never arrive, in the sense that there's always something to add, always something to improve, and always ways to refine and deepen that content delivery. And I think that alone is something to look forward to, especially for something, as Joyce had highlighted, is still so young. Edio's only been out for a few months now. And so I think that missional drive is something for families, both new and current, to look very forward to in the future.
Thank you both for being so great as guests on the podcast that we had to have you back a second time.
It's a great pleasure to have you both back.
And thanks for highlighting some of the things that have gone on with Edio, and we just appreciate being able to get this out and have you guys agree to do it. So thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Families, thank you. This is the first video version that we've ever done. We thought we'd do it big on the first episode back. So Thank you, and look forward to continued episodes of the podcast. Remember that we are CCA.